going on then with this audio input? Because that's not my USB. Is the level okay? All right, cool. All right, well, I guess it's working fine. Yeah, so I guess a couple people said they're going to be late. So I guess I'll just kind of go over some announcements and stuff. Um, so tomorrow we're going to do an in-person class. Hooray! That's going to be at 11 o'clock at uh, it's going to be at 11 o'clock at Marcus Garvey Park. And that's going to be it's going to be up by the fire tower area, which is kind of at the top of the hill. Um, and yeah, trying to think. So yeah, if you're going to come to class tomorrow, just make sure that if you have your rattan already, bring your rattan. Please wear a face covering, an optional fencing helmet, and you also want to bring padded gloves, just because things happen. Um, Also, welcome to our Google Meet. This is a little different platform that we're going to kind of experiment using, simply because as we saw, it looks like sword class and white. Um, it's actually just it is much easier for me to interact with everybody using the Google Meets. The quality I've found is much better, and I've had fewer dropouts. So that being said, um, I'm just going to give everyone a couple more minutes. Like I said, there's a few people said that they're going to be late. Um, I also have we are also streaming this class live to YouTube. So for folks who don't want to be in the Google Meet, can be just watch on the YouTube and drop in questions there. But just know that I will be mostly monitoring um, the Google Meet, which is in the sign up section. So yeah, so that should be. Yeah, so that's the big thing. It's a new platform. We're going to be experimenting with this for a while. And we're going to see how it works. I'm excited. And again, I would just find it easier to use. I hate Zoom, and I know a lot of other people are burned out from using Zoom all day as well. um, so what we're going to be doing, just to repeat real quick, tomorrow in-person class, 11 a.m. Marcus Garvey Park. There's sign up in the Discord and on the Facebook and all that kind of thing. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to go through the warm-ups, like the actual physical warm-ups that we normally do. And we're going to be going through those a little slower because there are a lot of questions about, hey, what am I supposed to be doing? And why are you counting like that? These warm-ups are taken from Taiso, which is a Japanese warm-up kind of regimen. There are different versions of it, and the specific one is the one that I was taught. And it's really good for kind of getting all the stretches in for your arms and everything else you need for doing fencing and sword fighting, but for fencing. And so we'll go over those, and there's a particular order. I know I mess it up sometimes. It's a lot to learn. So we'll go over it tonight slow. Kat and Josh, correct me if I miss something, because you guys know the order of this pretty well. So correct me if I get mess something up, because I want to make sure we do it correctly. But we'll go through it slow. That way we can get the full benefit of it. And then what we're going to do is we are going to then do we'll do some warm-up cuts, warm-up thrusts, and we'll do kind of the second cutting practice set along with the second cutting combination exercise. All right? Or the first. I'm sorry. We're going to review the first cutting, the first Hutton longsword exercise, so that we can do it tomorrow. All right. All right. So let's begin. All right. So what we're going to do is put your feet. Normally they say about shoulder width apart, but whatever is good, about hip apart, right? And the first thing we're going to do is begin here. We're going to move our arms back and up and out. You really want to feel this open up. You should be able to take a big, deep breath, right? So 1, and then reach back. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, next thing we're going to do, we're going to do these arm swings, all right? Makes you feel kind of like flapping like a bird. And what you really want to do, and I'm very guilty of this, sometimes I'll only go this high. Really what you want to do is get your arms up and then come back and cross and really stretch out. You want to feel this like right here, right? You know, not violently flapping like a hummingbird, like trying to actually take off, but, you know, and I always try to add like a little bit of like a chest stretch in it too, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right? Now next, we're going to do one big circles. I don't think I have to explain this too much, except for what I want people to make sure they do is that you're not making too small of circles. I want to make sure that you're getting that full rotation, all right? Don't get lazy, all right? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, if you feel that, you feel all this kind of opening up. All right, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to reach all the way down, and it's going to touch your toes if you can. A good tip that was given to me, I think it was either by Kat or by Kat and my friend Pilates. What you want to do if you can't reach the floor, grab your ankles. Try to reach your toes or the top of your feet all the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and on 4 we're gonna come back and we're gonna go all the way back. And this is why we need that good sound footwork here, right? 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now back down, and now you want to roll your spine down. In this case, all right. 2, 2, 3, 4. Roll your spine up and back. 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now this is one. This is the one that always gets a lot of people, and it gets me too. But what we're going to do is arm swings, and we're going to start. Oh, thank you. All right. Yep. See, this is why I tell people to catch me. All right. So now what we're going to do: big circles. I always forget this one, and I try to tuck it in at the end. Doesn't fly with flies with you guys, not at the dojo though, right? All right. So what we're going to do is reach down towards our left foot. If you can touch the ground, great. I can't, so I'm going to try to touch the top of my foot. What we're going to do is make a big circle. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then once you come to the middle, come back. 5, 6, 7, 8. And back. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now for the arm swings. All right. So the arm swings begin on your right, and we go 1. Make sure to stretch. You want to make sure that you're not just flapping your, just tossing your arms, right? But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. And so I always kind of am turning here and just trying to power everything with my hips and try not to flail my arms around too much. All right. Now we're going to go down to now we have jumping jacks. All right. So the jumping jacks are a little weird, or not weird, but they're a little different than a lot of folks are used to. So you begin just by jumping in place, right? Arms on your side. All right. So just it feels silly and usually kind of yeah. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. And keep it going. And 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. All right. Now, what we're going to do is kind of the sumo position, and I always kind of rotate my arms. And I don't, am I still on camera? Okay. All right. Keep your back straight. 1, 2, 3, 4. Roll back. 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now, I always kind of put my feet in this kind of like L stance. It's always starting with the left, reaching down, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Now switch your feet so that now your left foot is facing forward, your right foot is facing to the side. 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and back. 2, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, now we're going to do a deep lunge. We're going to deep lunge. Try to keep your back as straight as possible, and get as you want to actually feel you want to start feeling that burn. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch sides. 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put our feet together, put our hands on our knees, and we're going to turn our knees in a counterclockwise rotation. 1, 2, 3, 4, and clockwise. 5, 6, 7, 8, and back. 2, 2, 3, 4, clockwise. 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now, put again into this kind of position facing right. Your right toe should be facing to the side. Left foot facing forward. Hand up over your head, inverted. 1, and then bringing it down. You want to make sure to apply pressure. You want to push forward with your left leg and push back with your right, so you get this actual kind of like opposing force tension here. And now we're also going to stretch our wrists. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Switch sides. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. All right. So those are our warm-ups. We'll make a little video that is just those warm-ups, and we'll post it at some point. But yeah, and eventually also the other thing I want to start doing is getting everyone to kind of at least memorize the first 10 numbers in German, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because we're going to, as we do our warm-up cuts in the future, I want to get everyone else also counting, and also it's just going to be helpful to keep tempo, all right? So now that we've warmed up, grab your sword-like object, and let's do some practice cuts. All right. Actually, I'm going to hit my ceiling if I use this. I'll get something a little smaller. Yeah, there we go. All right. So, before we start, let's salute in real quick. So everyone, messer on your left shoulder, or sword-like object on your left shoulder. What we're going to do is Vealtig, which are Octun, salute, and just bring your sword to the side, or if you want, you can also rest it on your right shoulder. All right. So let's begin warm-up cuts. First thing we're going to do is go into the High Lugensland or Hochvomtag, High Vomtag, and we are going to strike Oberhau to the skull. All right. So begin with right foot forward, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go from the high Vomtag into the cut into the long point. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, all the way down to Bastei or Alber. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sehr gut. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do right Oberhau. Make sure our right foot is forward, and we're going to cut all the way down to Alber or Bastei for the Messerfolk. All right. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch your feet. Get your left foot forward. Still from that high Vomtag. And left Oberhau to Bastei or Alber. Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now we're going to do left Oberhau, right Unterhau. All right. Now, a big part of this, I say every week, and I will continue to say it. After we've done this first cut, make sure we finish this cut, then transition to Nebenhut, and then cut. All right? Let's do it. Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch your feet. So either in some form of Vomtag, with your right foot forward, we're going to go Oberhau, left Unterhau. All right. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Okay, now we're going to go into the right Stier or ox. We're going to cut Oberhau with a step if you have it. No, I'm sorry. I forgot Mittelhau. I am all over the place, and I haven't even been drinking today. Clearly, that was my problem. All right. All right. So let's go into the Mittelhut. All right. Make sure we have a nice level Mittelhut. Feet are on the same plane, toes facing forward, and we're going to cut Mittelhau. All right. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right, now move the your sword to your right side. We're now going to go from right to left and back. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Okay, now we're going to go into the right Stier or ox and cut Oberhau with step if you have the space. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Sehr gut. Okay, into the Nebenhut on the right side. Oberhau would step if you have it. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Okay, switching into the left ox or the left Stier, depending on your implement. And Oberhau would step. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Into Nebenhut on the left. We are going to do Oberhauer step. Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, good. Now we're going to do, let's do a Zornhau. Let's do a few Zornhaus, okay? For this iteration, I say let us put the sword on our right shoulder. What we're going to do is we're going to step forward with our left foot and then cut out, and with taking a little step with our left foot. So out and then out again with the left foot while winding into left Stier or ox, depending on your implement. Okay, so this is Zornhau mit Einschießen, Zornhau with the shooting in. All right. Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now let's do 5 Krumphaus. We'll do the very basic one. So what we'll do is we are simply going to start with our left foot forward, step forward with our right foot from the Wontag, and simply cut as if you're cutting a left Oberhau. All right? Und 1, 2, 3, 4 und 5. Okay, now we'll do Zwerchhau. So begin, what we're going to do is we're going to step forward with our left foot, still with our sword on our shoulder, and then we are going to present the tip to the, basically present the tip to someone's face. Yep. So, 1, 2, 3, 4 und 5. Okay, sehr gut. Now what we'll do is Schilhau, alright? So Schilhau, what we're going to do is we're going to, again, begin with our left foot forward, and we're with our sword on our shoulder, or messer on our shoulder, and we are going to turn our quote-unquote short edge in, and step. Okay? Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. Now we'll do Scheitelhau. So Scheitelhau is the Oberhau strike to here, strike to the skull, and with our left foot forward. And what we're going to do then is plunge it in. All right, as if the Scheitel, like over the shield, so to speak. So we're going to cut with our left foot, and then step with our right foot as we wind to essentially a right ox or a right stier, depending on your implement, okay? So if you're doing this with Messer, it's cut, plunge. All right? If you're doing it with Longsword, cut, plunge. All right? So into the high Vomtag. Eins. Zwei. Drei. Vier. And fünf. All right. Let's do our thrust real quick, and then we'll take a quick water break. All right? So let's begin in Stabe on the right, or Flug, and we're going to then step and thrust into Ox or Stier on the left. Und eins, zwei. Important part is to get your arms there first. Drei. Vier. Fünf. Sechs. Sieben. Acht. Neun. 10. Good. Okay. Into we'll go into Flug or Eba on the left, and we will then go thrust into Oxastier on the right. And eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right. Now we're going to go into the lange Ort. All right. We're going to thrust and back. Okay. Eins. Zwei. Drei. Vier. Fünf. Sechs. Sieben. Acht. Neun. 10. Okay. Go grab a quick water break. Quick water break. Make it. Okay. All right. So let us. I just want to. I'm going to grab something that has a little easier to see. All right. This will do. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to review real quick the first cutting pattern that we did last week. All right. Essentially, what we did is we talked about we start in our kind of first starting position here, right? And when you hear fertig, which means ready, you come into basically into the scabbards, And then from here, you want to make sure to draw, step under, into the right overhow, feet together, right foot back, cut, back into the long point, and step, step back, and back to the first position. Okay, so that's what we did last week. So this week it's going to be essentially the same thing. Beginning position, we're going to go into the scabbards, draw, step under it with our left foot, one more step to get that right foot forward, cut right overhow. Right, now instead of cutting left overhow, what we're going to do, simply go into Nebenhut and cut unterhow. Right, and we're going to step back with our right foot into high Vomtog, and then step back with your left foot into long point. Take 2 little steps back to kind of get back to where you started, and then back to first position. Let's do that again. Okay, first position, to scabbards, draw, under, right foot forward, Oberhow, Nebenhut, Unterhow, right foot back into Hoikvamtag, sword down into long point, 2 little steps back, first position. All right, we're going to do this one more time, and I'll point out a couple little things for you to keep in mind, just as like little details, okay? So, into scabbards, draw, overhead in the Vomtog, right foot forward, and cut. Now this is one of those moments you don't want to rush. Just go into Nebenhut, and one thing to make sure you do is that you're not doing the loosey grip, all right? Make sure you maintain that grip. And aim that pommel at your target as if you're cutting through a mat. And cut. And then back. All right? Now, from here, one of the dirty little tricks to make it look pretty, and also when we do this in groups to make it kind of more synchronous, what you want to try to do is as you're rolling this up to Lugensland or Vamtag, you want to make sure that as you're moving this right foot back, that your right foot lands backwards while this is still high. All right? So let's go into this, like the end of this cut here. All right? And now what we're going to do is roll back and put that foot. Yeah. One more time. So let's go kind of into this like almost Stier or ox. Right? Now we're going to roll back into Vomtag. Now, one of the interesting things about this card here, if you're Messer, we call this Lugensland. Lugensland. It's the looking the watchtower, looking into the land. Part of that is because this, although this is, it limits what you can generally do as an attack. You must, for the most part, you're going to be attacking from above to have the most efficient assault. But at the same time, what you do gain that you don't have here or here or here, you have a complete perspective. You're able to see everything, especially if you hold your arms in such a way that do prep you for the attack, but also give you a full field of view, and you can do it with both arms too. Yep. All right. So then now same. So that level aside, hooray. So from this high Vomtag or Lugensland, what we're going to do is we're going to move our left foot back. We're going to go into the long point. Same thing as from here to here, how we're trying to sync up this this kind of Stier, this post cut here. What we want to do is the same thing as we move back into the long point. We want this foot to meet the ground in a stable position by the time we're in Sprechfenster or long point, okay? So what that does is that allows us to, once we're in this position, it gives us grounding, right? And then step back. All right? So Um, let's see, what time is it? Okay, we got a couple more minutes on this subject, so why not? All right, let's do it together a few times. All right. So let's begin in the first position. And to scabbards, draw, Lucan's Line. All right, again. So from beginning, scabbards, draw into the Lugensland, or the Hoikvamtag, step forward the strike, 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 ready, ready. So these are military exercises, cutting exercises that we are converting into Messer and Longsword exercises. They are very good for allowing us to focus on these little things. By adding a lot of these kind of movements, each one of these movements is a training in foundations, right? This moving, even this drawing motion, this is more of a part for the Messer kids, so I apologize to the Longsword folk. Is training us how to, if we actually had our scabbards, which we, for the most part, do, we use, it's training us in this drill to practice that drawing of the Messer, and then making a smooth movement into Lugensland, stepping forward. You know, it's all these little bits. It seems like it's this complicated dance, but it's all like little tiny fundamental stuff that I know everyone knows, and it's that whole learning forever kind of thing. All right, let's do a couple more. All right, in the ready position. Fertig. Yeah. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll talk about the next exercise. All right. So, first position. Draw our sword into Lucan's lap. Good. All right. And this is also something, again, I'm still kind of tweaking some of the longsword elements. I've been focusing a lot on my Messer curriculum because we've been really having to kind of accelerate some of that. But I will type this up and I will make a little chart available as I've been doing. Would it be more helpful to be posting these things in the Discord or would it be, or just as individual like documents? I think it is almost easier for me to create a single Google Doc and just make it an open link for everyone to view. That way we can always kind of compound and build on these things every week. It's probably, and it's not just like files getting lost and everything. We can pin it to the top of the Discord. I'll get on that this week, I promise. All right. So what we'll do now, everyone, another quick water break, and that'll give me a second to put my glasses on and make sure I haven't gone completely insane, and just kind of give this thing a quick read over. Yeah, so quick water break. Okay, that's pretty easy. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna have this in front of me, so I can read it and not be completely misguiding you all. Because I apologize. It's been a while since I've picked up these exact exercises, but that's why I'm excited to dive back into them. All right. So what we're basically learning in this set Last week we discussed parrying a right Oberhau and like the kind of fundamental ways of doing that, and or how to use Flug to parry a right Oberhau, and then the best ways to riposte from that, right? Um, and so we kind of guided through. So we were parrying in parry Aba, left Oberhau, parry Aber, middle Hau, parry Aber, Unterhau, parry Aber, thrust, right? Um, Real basic stuff. Again, these are kind of like practice warm-up exercises that we're definitely going to be using to kind of help us study those foundations. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the inverse, which is warding or versetzen, which means to set aside. They didn't really use the word parry or ward in the medieval documents. So versetzen, versetzen of a left Oberhau using Eba or Flug on the right. All right. So again, these are a paired exercise, and there are going to be two parts, and we're going to learn both the parts. But first, what we're going to do is learn the feeder role. The feeder is the person who's providing the context for the drill, kind of like they're the teacher setting up the situation for the student. The feeder is not always going to be doing the most logical thing, but there is a lot of good exercise in this. So it's not to be those actions are not to be dismissed. So what we're going to do, as the feeder, sorry, let me back up just a real quick second. And one of the things, because we're mostly doing this in solo isolation, I'm going to have people do the cuts and parries all the way through. So if I say, hey, all right, what I want you to do is do a left Oberhau, we're not going to pretend like we're coming into contact with anything. What we're going to do is we're going to cut all the way through to Alber or Baste, all right? And so a lot of this is going to feel very wide compared to probably what we might experience in more of an active fencing situation. But once we see, but once you experience this with swords against swords, it'll make more sense. All right. So let's go over the feeder role. So so what we're going to do is, just for the sake, we're going to begin in Vomtag. I'm using one hand right now for my messer, just because it's going to be easier for me to read and strike at the same time. But you use two hands if you want to practice this with longsword, one for messer. All right? So we're going to, as the feeder, we're going to begin in the Lugensland or Vomtag, and we're going to cut a left Oberhau. All right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to then step back and parry an Alber. All right. Now this is because our opponent supposedly will be cutting a right Unterhau. Now this is going to be something that I would like to experiment with, because I have some feelings that we really want to be doing this with a Verhangen, a low Verhangen. But I want to experiment because I was told not to do this Verhangen, but I don't think that's a thing. So what we're going to do, let's start again. I'm sorry. We're going to begin in right Vomtag. We're going to cut a left Oberhau. And then we are going to parry an Alber. We're going to come back up to Vomtag and do another left Oberhau. And we're going to then parry with a hanging. Cut left Oberhau, parry with a hanging. And then ward and right Flug. All right? Now, this is all going to seem kind of weird, because it's not going to make, until you actually see what the player side of this is going to look like, it can get a little funky. This is something we talked a little bit about in the longsword, in-person longsword class last week. There is a little bit of a heavier reliance on the idea of using your sword as a shield in this kind of Geheimeffekten system, where you're always trying to kind of put your sword between. You're always literally trying to keep your blade between you and your opponent, except under very, very particular circumstances. All right. So just so we can get better context, what we're going to do. Let's go over what the player is going to be doing. All right. So in this case, where the player is focusing on warding that left Oberhau with Flug on the right, which is also Tierce if you're a more classical fencer, or Aber if you're a Messer person. And then you're going, for this first part, you're going to parry and Abe, and then cut a red Unterhau. Then you're going to parry, Abe, cut right Oberhau. Parry and Aber. And then you're going to cut right Mittel. Parry and Aber, and thrust. All right. So let's do now. Part of, I can see that I can actually see on the other side now. I know that there's some questions about kind of how this lines up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of I need to get like one of those bicycle stands as the clamp so I can like show the sword movement. But so how this works out? Let me pantomime it a little bit in the air. So when I am cutting, so the feeder, when they cut this left Oberhau, it's parried here, right? It's parried here, to which then from that side, while they step back, your whatchamacallit, the player is now attempting to do an Unterhau, to which you parry in this Alber, right? And you cut back, and then now what essentially is happening is that because you're attacking from your left side to their right, so they're defending with their right side and attacking back on that side. So they're attacking your left side. So now you must parry high, spawn, parry, spawn, zoom. All right. It's actually, it's one of those, again, it's one of those things that I promise it makes sense. It will just make sense once you have people. You have to have two people. You kind of have to have the contact on contact. But I do think it's important that we start memorizing the roles. Okay. So what I need you all to do now is I'm going to read off the task, and I would like you to do the action. I'd like you to do that action. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the feeder roll. All right. So what you're going to do is go into Vomtag, cut left Oberhau, parry Alber, defending your left side. Good. Now, I want you to cut left Oberhau. So come back up the Vomtag, cut a left Oberhau. Now, I want you to do a hanging that defends your left side. Yes. Now from there, I want you to now do another left Oberhau. And another hanging to defend that side on the left. Do a left Oberhau. And pull back into right Flug. All right? So there you go. Let's do it again. So reset into high Vomtag, please. And now we are going to do left Oberhau. Parry Alber slightly to the left. I want to come back up to Vomtag. Cut left Oberhau. Now defend your left side with a hanging. Step forward with a left Oberhau. Back into another hanging. Left Oberhau. Back into a right Flug. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, believe me, it makes more sense once you start kind of putting it in context. All right, one more time, just so we really get it. All right. Into the high Vomtag, please. And left Oberhau. Alber. Left Oberhau. Hang. Left Oberhau. Hang. left overhow, fluke. All right. All right. Yeah. All right. So that is the feeder part of this. Now we only have about 5 minutes left. So I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. Drop something in the chat if you want me to. If you want to focus on just this part, we can continue just learning this part for the next couple minutes. Or we can. Does that? Or do you want to learn the player part? You want to learn the player part, or is it too much in once? All right, let's just learn it then. All right, people seem to want to go. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to as the player, we're going to first ward that incoming left overhow by going into fluke, like this kind of high fluke, right? Now from there, you're going to cut into an unterhow, right? Yep, and you're going to find once you're doing this with swords, you're going to find, like sword on sword contact, you're going to parry, and what you're going to find is that you can actually cut from that parry into safely by taking a little step into their head by kind of cutting off the blade right to their head. A little bit of an Abschneiden, but with the long edge, right? So we've parried, we've cut a right unterhow, and now we have to parry again to defend against another incoming left overhow. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do that same thing and strike to their head. Right? With a right overhow, and then come back to defend because they're coming back in with their left overhow. Now from here, it's going to be a little easier. Step out with your left foot, and you're going to cut middle how from right to left. And then defend with that step forward, step back into place with that left foot. So that now you're back into fluke. And from here, the easiest one, put that sword forward and thrust him in the face. All right, let's do it again. All right, so start in the long point. You're waiting. The feeder comes in with a left overhow, so you parry that left overhow, and then you return with a right unterhow. Fluke, overhow, fluke, middle how, fluke, thrust. Right? One more time. And from the long point, we are going to parry, cut, parry, cut, parry, cut, parry, stab. Yeah. All right. So now that is the combination. That is like the second major exercise set. That's how it's an exercise set designed to help you learn simple parries and ripostes against the left overhow. Yeah, we're just about at the end of class. So what I'd like you to do is put your sword-like object away. We're going to do a little bit of a cooldown. Kat has developed a cooldown regimen. So I'm now going to pass the channel over to her real quick. So we can do a quick cooldown, and then I'll kind of do some just some final sign-off announcements, and then we'll call it a night. Kat?
Can you guys hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So I don't have a fancy microphone set up with the computer that we're using, so I'm tethered, but I will try to show you the best that I can. So what I've developed and passed on to Peter is a series of ballistic stretches, which are stretches that have movement, and static stretches, which are stretches where you're not moving. And we'll do various combinations of ballistic and static stretching because stretching at the end of the workout
and
yourself.
back.
Bring it
And then we're
around
gonna,
the hug.
there we go.
And then open and put the other arm on top. So you're essentially going to be switching which arm is on top every time and trying to get the full range of motion backwards.
Just for the YouTube folks, I know this is probably a little weird because you probably can't see, you're not seeing this
And
stream.
just switching. Awesome.
So just kind of follow along the best you can on the YouTube, and we're just gonna keep doing.
Great.
I'll do my
Now we're
best to
going
keep
to
up.
do
It's
single
new to me
arm
too.
windmills. So get yourself with maybe it's easier if you put your left foot forward, right foot back.
Left foot
You're going
forward,
to
right foot back.
backstroke your right arm.
Backstroking the right
Full
arm.
range of motion
Full range
through
of
the
motion.
whole shoulder.
Whole
So
shoulder.
kind of like a swimming backstroke.
Whee!
Back,
Doing a backstroke.
back. And we're going to change direction and you're going to front stroke.
Now we're gonna
right
change
arm.
direction and front stroke with the right arm.
Swim forward. Try to stretch the fingertips out. So that you're
Try to
gonna
stretch the
stretch
fingertips
whole
out.
arm.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Awesome. Switch sides, right foot
Switching
forward,
sides, right foot forward, left foot back.
Backstroke the left arm.
Backstroking the left arm.
Back. Okay, and we're gonna front stroke.
And front stroke.
Forward.
Keeping those fingers forward.
Be sure to stretch out through the tips of your fingers.
Oh man, you can really see where all the arm pain is. Jesus. This is good.
Excellent. So now we're going to do like back and shoulder stretch. So
Back and
you're
shoulder
gonna
stretch.
stretch your arms up as far as they'll go, as far as they'll go, and you're going to pull them down.
Pulling our arms down.
Arms to your side. Back up. Pull them down, almost like you're pulling something down. Like pulling
Okay, so it's like
down.
pulling something down.
There we go.
High as you can go up.
Pull. You should feel
Pull.
it in your back and your chest and your shoulders. Kind of pinching the shoulder blades together in the back. And one more. Arms up in the air. Pull down, pinching the shoulder blades together. Yeah. Perfect. Kind of give your shoulders a little wiggle. Just
Loose the shoulders.
Okay, now we're going to stretch the biceps and triceps. These are static stretches.
Biceps and
So you're going to take
triceps.
your left arm,
Left
pull it
arm.
across your body, lock it in with your right arm, or pull on the tricep, or you can even grab at the wrist and pull. There are a lot of different ways, as long as you're feeling it in your bicep, but not pulling so hard that you're feeling it too much in your joint. And switch. Your right arm over your body. Pull with the left.
Yay!
There are so many more stretches that you can do, but I think that these are the most effective that you can also bring to outdoors because then we don't need to worry about laying down on the ground. So you can practice these.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Kat. So now that we're all cooled down, just I guess just a couple quick things. So again, once again, tomorrow we're going to be doing an in-person class at Marcus Garvey Park, and so please check out. There's a link in the Discord and on the Facebook for sign-up information. And let's see. In general, I've been having, like I said, a more positive experience using Google Meets. I hope this has been okay technologically for everyone. We seem to have like a really good crowd tonight, which is awesome to see. And we're also streaming on the Facebook. I'm trying to keep in touch with everyone about kind of like all the goings on at the dojo, like at the sword space, just so that we can keep everyone up to date about everything like that. If you still have stuff at the sword space and need to pick things up, let me know and I can help. I have a set of keys. I can help arrange getting you in and out of that space. Otherwise, the only other thing that I have to promote is a new T-shirt designed by Dylan. Here it is. Um, uh, Thank you to everyone who has already purchased T-shirts and/or swag with this logo on it. Dylan did a fantastic job putting this together, and it's all helping support the fencing that we're doing. Um, so that being said, I'm gonna it's we're gonna call it a night, and so stay tuned on the Discord. We're going to do a movie night. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong. Is it we're going to do Bill and Ted's? What's the new one? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean for you to put down Bill or Ted.
Bill and Ted Face the Music is the newest one.
Okay, so we're going to watch Bill and Ted Face the Music, and then followed by Dune, the science fiction classic movie Dune. Yeah, stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun, and don't forget, if you get a chance and you're able, please drop me a tip at ko-fi.com/PeterJHaas. Helps me kind of keep all this stuff going while we're trying to figure out how things are being reorganized. Thanks so much, everyone, and I'll talk to y'all soon. All right, bye bye.